Better than Robin, Tribbie early access review. $39 of yap. We won't watch all 40 minutes because if he's talking about the same exact talking points that Brax was talking about, I just skip over it.
Hey guys, Mr. Pokey here, back with another video, and
I think I'm going to go into service myself, chat.
on today's episode of Early Access Review, we are going to be taking a look at our latest, first and only version 3 Harmony support Tribbie, right? And I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys are really wondering,
Hey, his hair looks nice.
is she gonna overthrow Robin? Who should you pull for? Robin versus Tribbie? How does she function? What team will catch it? And I'm not even remotely close to finishing experimenting with Tribbie, so look forward to her actual release on the live server where we'll be playing with her together on my stream at twitch.tv, right? So as of this current moment,
Can you call him and tell him not to start that stupid intro? I've told him, Tectone's told him, the community has told him, bro. He just loves his intro
going
at this
forward,
point.
not just for this, but for all of the Honky Starbucks C server, I will be dedicating more times in trying for some like zero cycle cost breakdowns, unit comparison, and many others. So look forward to not just having a single Tribbie related early access review, right? So for Tribbie specifically, the overview is that she's the first version 3 Harmony that thrives on area of effect environments such as the recent enemies we face, like the True Swarm, Pure Free, as well as
we already know about all this.
Dunson's Utilizer, and as such, it's a very, very flexible unit even at a E0 S0 baseline. And depending on the content, the action value generated from Dunson's Duns, it could rival even Robin's ultimate, right? And one last thing before jumping to the creator kit, from testing in various team comps, the most exceptional team I've seen so far is going to be with D Herta, while also having pretty decent performances with Leia, Fei Xiao, and to a certain degree Aircon, right? So jumping straight into the creator kit, her base.
So he said from his testing so far, the best value is Herta, and then he said decent performance with Fei Xiao.
Before jumping to the creator kit, from testing in various team comps, the most exceptional team I've seen so far is going to be with D Herta.
So D Herta,
while also having pretty decent performances with Leia, Fei Xiao, and to a certain.
Okay, I'm gonna nitpick right here, and I'm only gonna nitpick because this is actually important for the the wide and vast majority of HSR players to hear. Pokey's definition of decent is a Metaslave's definition of decent. But let me tell you the actual definition. Aglaya, Fei Xiao, and Acheron are gonna be fucking insane with Tribbie, right? Like they're all gonna be insane. But a Metaslave is gonna say that that's decent. That's so important to understand. And that's not a shot at Pokey. It's just that sometimes you get so lost in the Metaslave sauce that you forget what the definition of decent actually means, right? Decent is like a 4-5 cycle clear, bro. You know, but if you're getting goddamn 1 cycles, 2 cycles, that's not decent. That's amazing.
Degree Aircon, right? So jumping straight into the character kit, her basic is what's going to be used most of the time. Sometimes you might want to use Tribbie skill to get a little bit more additional energy. 3 targets similar to destruction, and if you do kill mobs with Tribbie,
Prakash, thank you for the 40, man. A true damage buffer will be better overall, in my opinion.
Which honestly isn't as hard compared to other support, since you are going to be.
I want to pause this real quick to address that. Hey, Parak, first of all, thank you for the donation. The reality of it is, guys, we're not in control of the board. Hoyo is. We can sit here and say true damage is going to be better than Robin's action value advancement, but the truth is, the better value is up to what Hoyoverse does with the characters they design. If they want to design a character that's better suited to action value advancement from Robin, they will do that, right? We don't know what they're going to do, and it's obscured in that way because it's a fucking scumbag gacha game. So, sure, in the next 3-4 months, it might pertain to Tribbie, but then they drop a unit that just completely shadows Tribbie, and now she's not valuable anymore. There's no real way to know because we're not in control of the house. Hoyo is.
Building up with quite a bit of crit ratio, but you can get even faster ultimates from the kill, right? Then for skill, it is the what gives us the 24% res pen, which is tied to her own turn along with her ultimate, similar to Run Mei, Robin, as well as Sunday's ultimate, right? Res pen as well as the damage vulnerability from the ultimate, they are both more or less universal multipliers that don't.
Okay, so he's already talking about
because
this?
they can all utilize.
We already know this.
Damage for target to the highest
so
HP
characters
enemy.
kit, we already know all this.
See these exactly.
This is the part I wanted to see because somebody said something about the E1 being tied to the ultimate description. While the zone lasts, increase enemy target's damage taken after an allied target attacks. For every one target hit, deal 1 instance of quantum additional damage equal to Tribbie's HP to the target that has the highest HP among the hit targets. Okay. So then this makes sense why the E1. Now I see it. So the E1 not explaining this is because it's explained in the ultimate. That said, with as expensive as this game's characters are, with as expensive as the Eidolons are, it is still very fucking important that you explain this and explain how it pertains to the E1. It needs to be even more descriptive than it is, okay? Zenless Zone Zero writes fucking light novels, Lord of the Rings books inside of their descriptions. That means HSR can do it as well, and it's important that they explain that and how it ties to her E1.
How Robin's additional damage works. Except for Tribbie, there's one very, very important thing which arguably could make her even better than Robin, and that is gonna be why I'm gonna be calling this as a smart targeting, right? So it automatically allocates the additional damage to the highest HP target, which helps us focus on elite and bosses instead of wasting all of the additional damage for mobs, right?
That is that really makes her E1 so fucking broken, bro. I'm gonna be honest with you. Because the most broken thing in HSR is getting rid of the elites. And having a character on the team that's always going to just redistribute all the damage you're doing back to the elite. I mean, bro, I'm sorry. I mean, I might be the only one that's really emphasizing how cracked that is. That is fucking broken in every meaning of the word. No matter what you're doing out there on that field, your E1 Tribbie is ensuring that it's getting redistributed back to the fucking elite with her true damage. I mean, that's just crazy. Yo, Prakash with the 100. I'm talking about dedicated true damage buffer like MC, along with buffs to teams, which is built-in kit, not Eidolons. I already forgot what you were talking about earlier, man.
So an example is that if you are going to be receiving additional damage on a normal perspective, you are going to be applying, let's just say, 1,000 or 2,000 additional damage.
Yeah, it's no wasted damage.
For Tribbie, she will instead collect all 5 targets additional damage and only focus on the boss itself, which means that you can kill the boss extremely, or rather much faster than if it does not have the smart targeting. Right? So this is a very, very interesting ultimate mechanic. And secondly, it is going to be at 120 energy cost, which allows for some very, very nice uptime with the talent, which will be discussed later on with Dance Dance Dance. But generally speaking, I found myself to be guaranteed 2-turn ultimate running Dance Dance Dance, sometimes even 1-turn ultimate with units like D Herda, right?
Wait, is he doing that with an ER rope or is he doing it with an HP? That would have been my next question.
This ultimate is also going to be tied to our major trace Pebble at Crossroads, which is going to be the 1.5 energy per target hit from any ally, and it also does receive the benefit from energy regeneration, right? So if you do hit 5 targets with your allies, that's going to be an additional 7.5 energy, and this is going to be extremely important to enable Tribbie to unlock her very fast ultimate up.
Tribbie regenerates after other allied targets attack. Tribbie regenerates 1.5 energy for each target hit. I mean, dude, that's just so fucking cracked. Your other allies are just giving you a battery by hitting. That's it. I mean, dude, even facial follow-up comps are going to be insane for that. Because it's each target hit. So obviously it's more tailored to AoE scenarios. Each target hit, more AoE. Okay, so yeah. More AoE destruction units, erudition units are really going to benefit from that. Like, she's going to benefit from those team comps much more.
Uptime, right? And then one last thing is going to be Tribbie's talent, which allows her.
Herda has double that amount, so, but it's obviously good. Herda also has triple the fucking energy requirement. Oh my God. I'm going to be nice. think more, you know, take a bit longer to think before you type a message, buddy, okay?
To deal one follow-up attack per unit ultimate, right? Regardless if they are a buff, debuff.
Chad, I'm gonna start doing that for often. Before I like pop off, be like, Smack, do not be rude. Be more professional.
Damage, whatever. As long as they cast an ultimate, Tribbie will let go of this one additional follow-up, which can also give her additional energy. Mainly, it is used to trigger more energy for herself, as well as for units like Herta. But keep in mind, this follow-up attack, the damage can ramp up over time, which is going to be tied to out of major trace lamps outside the wall, ramping up your damage by 72% every single time you use a follow-up, up to 216% additional damage, right? So, over the course of battle, you can get this 3 follow-up, and eventually the damage is going to add on quite substantially, right? And then one last thing, glass balls with wings offer a 9% sum of all ally HP, and if your HP was 10k, you basically get 9.
Do you think Tribbie can replace Topaz in a facial fart team? If I were to use Tribbie on a facial team, I'm taking out the Aventurine, not the Topaz. But if I have to compare Topaz versus Tribbie, honestly, if you're talking about E1 Tribbie, it's not even a debate. If we're talking about E0 Tribbie, it's debatable only because of the volume of Topaz attacking. Because you gotta remember, like, Topaz attacks, auto attack, then Numby, and then every time everybody else, Numby. The battery given to Fei Xiao from Topaz on top of the multiplicative debuff, that is the value of her on that team. I'm not sure Tribbie's replacing her at E0. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. What I would say is, I'm replacing Aventurine. I'm not replacing fucking whoever. Even if that's a imaginary March 7th, I'm not replacing my Topaz or my March 7th. I'm replacing the Sustainer. That's how I view it. EO, what's up, EO? Love you, brother. Hope all is well, man. W's in the chat for EO.
100 additional HP. Now, this is not very important, but it might be relevant in the future, which is the trace mentions ally characters, while the energy trace, skill, and ultimate mentions ally targets. So they did make this distinction here. From what I've seen so far, the HP share trace does not constitute Mimo sprites. So something to keep in mind, maybe going forward into the future. Right? Then finally, minor.
That's actually very important. Ooh, that's a really, really important detail. Good on you, Pokey. While the zone lasts, Tribbie's max HP increases by an amount equal to 9% of the sum of all allied characters' max HP. So, because it didn't state Memo Sprite, he's saying I don't think it pertains to Memo Sprite HP.
Sprites. So something to keep in mind, maybe going forward into the future. Right? Then finally, minor tracers, 37.3% crit damage, 12% crit rate, and 10% HP, which are all very, very good minor tracers. And you would want to prioritize your ultimate, followed by a skill, followed by a talent, followed by a basic. But generally, every single one of these tracers are going to be very important for Tribbie to increase the buffs as well as her personal damage. And speaking about the personal damage, so these segments, I'm just going to be talking about a little bit more of the advanced analysis from what I found, right? First things first, damage output. So Tribbie's buffs at a surface level, it might not seem that much, even though they are quite universal, because it's 24% rest penetration as well as 30% damage vulnerability, which in the grand scheme of things, it feels a little bit less, right? It doesn't really feel like the numbers are very high, but the additional damage from your ultimate as well as your follow-up as well as your actual ultimate damage,
it all starts to add up.
They can add up substantially over time, since keep in mind, Tribbie does have a personal 216% damage buff after.
That's why I was telling people, like, them little 30Ks, them little 50Ks and 60Ks happening over and over and over. That shit adds up, boy. That's all Robin's E1 is. Robin's E1 is just a little bit of extra damage on top of the damage of your team, but that shit adds up over time.
After 3 follow-up, right?
Yo, Brianna, thank you for the $5. Love your content. Thank you so much for the donation.
So, for example, when I was using Dance against the Reaver, we did roughly 26,000 single target damage. So if we were to split up to 5 targets, it is going to be 130,000 ultimate. We also did a 97,000 follow-up attack with the additional damage from the ultimate, as well as 7,422 per 12 additional damage, right? If each unit has the ability to cast 3 ultimates per Tribbie ultimate, then 3 Tribbie ultimates within 250 action value, which honestly is very, very easily doable. It can result in roughly 8 or 9 follow-up attacks in a fight, which is gonna be almost 1 million damage from just the follow-up attacks.
Shit adds up.
Not even including the additional damage from the ultimate, the buffs, as well as the ultimate damage by itself. What I'm trying to say is Tribbie's personal damage, it is gonna be very, very noticeable, and you will feel the impact between running with a
30% vulnerability plus 24% res pin on average increases the team's damage by roughly 63%. I summon, first of all, welcome to the chat, brother, is a theory crafter who's been theory crafting in the community for a long time, so I can vouch for what he just said there.
A DPS build, or if you want to run with the 4-piece Eagle build later on, I'll be discussing, right? Note that this is, however, for 5 targets. So for 1 target, you essentially divide it by 5, which is roughly 200,000. So for example, in the Facial team, Tribbie was still able to output a pretty decent amount of damage to allow us to get a 2-cycle clear against a non-AoE environment, right? So
bro, I fucking mopped this dude up with Facial. Bro got cooked so hard with Facial this MOC, it was insane.
TLDR, her damage output is definitely not to be underestimated. The second point I want to talk about is going to be her ultimate rotation, right? So assuming that you are going to be attacking 5 targets with Eidolon teammates, Tribbie with an energy regeneration rope can quite frequently achieve a 1-turn ultimate, right?
Okay, so he's advocating the ER rope too. I can't wait till I get to play with this character because I feel like she's gonna get her ult up just by getting hit. And if we're talking about this game on a sweaty level, you're kind of relying on the fucking monsters to hit you. You know, I wonder how that would test, but they could be right. I mean, well, I guess we'll see.
Talent as well as a follow-up attack, they can all help gain energy, and they all benefit from energy regeneration. Sometimes you can also spam Tribbie's skill just to get a little bit more energy. Also, you want to place Tribbie in the middle so that she can take more hits from AoE, and since the HP is going to be very, very high, you don't really need to worry about sustain by that much. In pure fiction, you can
see like right here. Look at this. Look at this. This is already overkill. Just pure example, just off what he has on the screen. This right here with the ER, it's overkill.
almost do
Bro got overkilled. I guess wasted ER right there.
A 0-turn ultimate with Eidolon.
But listen, I want to make sure I'm clear here though, Chad. I'm not saying that HP outright rules out ER. I'm just saying in certain situations, you can definitely run that HP rope, I guarantee it.
Teams like Herta, Lingsha, this kind of stuff, which can give you essentially almost quote-unquote infinite action value as long as you can continuously hit the targets, which is pretty diabolical, right? Outside of pure fiction, you can pretty much get a consistent 1-turn with most teams, and at worst, I've seen so far, it's going to be a 2-turn ultimate using a single target team such as Facial. Now, very, very important.
Ult's already up again, Tribbie.
Then for this ultimate rotation, even if I was using Dance with Tribbie, I personally prefer to keep Tribbie slow herself. Now, this might seem a little bit counterintuitive because if you're going to be using Dance,
no, that's not counterintuitive at all because DDD's action value advancement is stronger on slower units. It's more potent. The efficacy of it is like super high on a slow ass unit. And furthermore, like you're just trying to get her to go additional times.
Become even faster. But for Tribbie herself, it is actually fine because her energy can actually be naturally obtained from her teammates instead of relying on her own fast speed. So this allows Tribbie to stack on more HP, more crit rate, and more crit damage, which allows her to deal more damage personally instead of chasing for that speed as well as action value.
The question to me, dead ass though, is like, and I'm not pulling for it regardless, but is she better with DDD? Or is she better with her Sig?
Not to mention, a planar 2-piece also needs around 5,000 HP, so chasing for too high of a speed may impede this function, right? The only exception to this rule, I would say, is if you're going to be going for a very, very specific 0-cycle setup using a Von Wreck 2-piece or Eagle 4-piece to squeeze out a 200 effective speed and get that 1 extra turn in either Wave 1 or Wave 2. So for Wave 1, it's going to be roughly 140 speed, and for Wave 2, it's going to be roughly 135 speed, right? But I digress. We'll talk about it a little bit more later. And one final thing before we jump into the Signature Light Code, which is probably gonna be the question that you guys have been wondering since the start: Tribbie versus Robin. All right, so this Tribbie versus Robin.
Derek, man, thank you for the 10, my man. You say you don't see the future, but all the characters you strongly recommend when they were kind of overlooked, from Huahua to Topaz to Zhao Shou, haven't let me down yet. What I'm trying to say is you can't call these things because the house can design a character out of thin air that makes the characters we recommend it become obsolete.
Debate. First of all, I took a substantial
But I mean,
amount of time trying to test out
I made predictions, right? But I can't predict. That's what I mean by I can't predict the
all
future.
the different comps, namely Akron, Fei Xiao, D Herta, as well as Eglea, between Tribbie as well as Robin. And I'm still not done fully testing because, you know, I only have this much time. I can't test like so many different comps, right? So we will be doing more testings in the future, but let's just address from some of the pointers that I've gathered from the past couple of days, right? So as of the environment that I have tested Tribbie in, Tribbie's power is going to be largely dependent on the environment more so than the team comp. So I've tried it, like I mentioned, the previous 4 team comps just now, and I would most likely be making a separate video to show the full runs of these teams against their Memory of Chaos with their respective results. Every single one of these will be done at an E0, S0, Tribbie, and Robin, I'm probably going to be using her with the Bronya signature icon. So for Robin, she is going to be less dependent on enemies compared to Tribbie, and Robin's main issue is her ultimate uptime at E0, S0 baseline, right? But Robin's team...
I hope he addresses how Robin doesn't synergize with the HP scaling units that well. Because of her attack buff is completely fucking worthless. Whereas Tribbie is not only going to be able to be fit on pretty much any team Robin fits on, she also fits on the HP scaling teams as well. Whereas Robin, not as good. That attack percent buff does fuck all.
Teammates are able to alleviate this with either follow-up attack frequencies.
Like my blade is so pathetic with fucking Robin. It's like it just doesn't really fit. It's like I guess. Same thing with the dot comps. Is Robin's value there? Sure. But does it fucking actually like fit perfectly? No, it doesn't.
Like Huo or even speed tuning on DPS to squeeze in one extra turn before Robin's ultimate expires.
Tribbie sucks in dot. I'm not saying that she's amazing in dot. What I'm telling you is Robin doesn't fit perfectly in dot. She doesn't fit perfectly in HP scaling comps. That's her biggest weakness. The action value advancement isn't good enough.
Such as Eglea, right? So if you cannot fix...
But I don't know how Tribbie works in dot until I play with dot. And I would argue Tribbie probably works better in dot than Robin does. Dot sucks not because of Tribbie. Dot sucks because dot fucking sucks.
Robin's energy issue, you would lead to a very, very drastic drop-off. Doesn't really matter which kind of environment you face her in. Maybe sometimes if you use them against an enemy like Hule, which attacks you very frequently, you can squeeze out a little bit more energy, but that's going to be purely based on RNG, right? Whereas for Tribbie, on the other hand, she is not as relying on teammate that much, since her follow-up attack and additional damage, they can be very, very easily triggered. Even if you're not going to be using Tribbie with like 5 target AoE teammates, it is more so based on the enemy matchup. So even if you have an Erudition teammate, but if you have no 5 targets to use these Erudition teammates on, then it's kind of useless, right? So the 5 target, it will shines the most, which will give us up to 60% additional damage based on Tribbie's max HP on the main target, as well as the 7.5 energy from her trace, which can also be impacted by energy regeneration. And as this number goes down, I can see her effectiveness following closely, right? One thing to keep in note is that I did this specifically from my Fei Xiao testing. The numbers doesn't really change that much because I was still able to get a pretty consistent 2-turn ultimate, but I'll talk about this a little bit more in the Fei Xiao segment, right? And another point I found out is that for Robin, she's also going to be more restrictive to attack scaling DPS with her massive attack buffs, as well as some of the crit damage buffs on the follow-up attacks. So
there's no way I would recommend Tribbie over a Robin on a fucking follow-up comp. Like Robin's for the follow-up comps.
If future
primarily
HP scaling DPS becomes a thing, then Robin,
if you're gonna run them, just run them together at that point.
Won't be the optimal choice as compared to units like Tribbie. And then if you want to talk about a future outlook perspective, I do personally have a higher confidence that Tribbie can synergize more with upcoming DPS like your Mighty, your HP scalers, or AoE target content more so compared to Robin. But
it's not even a debate. That's not even a debate. It's literally she is going to she's for them. That's not even a debate. Like I don't even know why we're even trying to make it seem like, oh, maybe It's not even a debate.
At the current value from all of the team comps that I've seen so far, and naming the popular team comps, they both are very, very similar, with Tribbie shining a little bit more in the current endgame content as well as the potential future endgame content, which we do know they are going to be tailoring towards these kind of like summons, Mimo sprites, as well as erudition based content, right? So in summary, if you are a player that started on version 3.0, such as my brand new free-to-play account, then Tribbie will hold substantially higher value for you, especially if you put for a V3 DPS like Herta or even Aglaia. And if you want to pivot,
I agree with that,
into future version 3 DPSs like Mighty or even Castris, who knows what she does in the future, then Tribbie is gonna be giving you a lot more compared to Robin.
I'll be honest with you. I feel like this one is wild. Hey, mods, if you can, anybody who keeps coming to my chat saying Atsu is back, Atsu anything, time their ass out for 24 hours. Hey, get a fucking life, you loser. I do not give a rat's ass about fucking Atsu being back. Chat mods, dead ass, 24-hour timeout. They keep coming in here and doing that shit. You niggas are losers, bro. Grow the fuck up. No one cares. Anyways, getting back to the video, what I wanted to say is, Tribbie being the better value pick in 3.0 should come to no one's surprise. The reason it should come to no one's surprise, chat, is because like she's 3.0 Harmony. Of course, she's gonna be the better value pick for the 3.0 characters. You know what I mean? That's why I feel like this is so obvious. It's like, guys, surprise. The Harmony 3.0 unit is for the 3.0 theme. Of course it is, man.
Both of them being at an easy or agile baseline. And then for E1 Robin versus E1 Tribbie, we'll discuss this next time, but heads up, there is a very, very clear winner, and hopefully this answers your question regarding this, right? Next, moving on to Tribbie's signature light cone, or more specifically, signature light cone versus Dance, because these two are most likely the light cones that you guys are considering on running on Tribbie, right? So talking about a signature light cone first, it does have a whopping 1,270 base HP increase.
Okay, let me take a look at this. Increase the wearer's crit damage. All right, so that's just damage for Tribbie. After the wearer launches a follow-up attack, additionally regenerates 12 energy. So this would enable you. This would enable you to rock the HP rope. For sure. It additionally regenerates 12 energy and gains presage, lasts for 2 turns. Every time she launches a follow-up, she gains 12 energy. There's your HP rope right there. While the wearer has presage, all allies target crit damage increases by 96% or 48%. I'm sorry. When entering battle, the wearer regenerates 21 energy. She regenerates more energy again? So the question is, and you guys could look to all the theory crafters here, is that going to outshine the action value advancement of DDD? Which, honestly, I know this looks insane, but it is debatable. It is debatable. I think in some situations, obviously, that's going to be better. But in a number of situations, you'd be surprised what DDD could do. And more importantly, chat, what DDD could do for the cost of $0 versus spending all this money on this signature light con.
Increase wearer's crit damage by 36% and 12 energy for each follow-up with the presage buff for 2 turns, which buffs all ally crit damage by 48%, as well as giving her 21 energy when entering battle, right? So this is a pretty good light cone to maintain a very high ultimate uptime.
I wouldn't say S5 DDD is exactly free. Over time, it will be.
Even if the 1.5 energy trace cannot be fully...
I feel like this light cone will be busted for follow-up attacks and E1 havers more than DDD, but that's just a feeling from experiencing it. You can't get higher than a 0 cost anyway. Yeah, I agree. I agree. I see the value 1,000,000,000%. The damage increase on herself, the damage increase on your party, and then actually it's even more damage increase than you realize, because then you can rock an HP rope as well and still get the same shit. Oh, I'm pretty sure it's crazy. I'm just, you know me, I'm not a fan of the fucking SIGs, man.
Be maximized, especially if you're not using either AoE allies or against
Plus,
AoE.
It's also, you're comparing, it's this versus her fucking E1.
Content, right? This also has the added benefit to allow Tribbie to instantly use her ultimate at the start of battle using an energy regeneration rope. Also, it gives us the following buffs, which is going to be roughly on practice 30% more Tribbie damage, right? She has more crit damage for herself, higher base HP, as well as a team crit well as buff, right? Stunts. We all for Signature now cast ultimate for a 24% action value advance, right? So all hail the one true king, this Lycone, which is currently still gonna be in Robin's Lycone banner. For Tribbie specifically, her synergies with Dance is arguably one of, if not the best in the entire game, alongside Harmony Trailblazer when she first came out with the Fugue concept, right?
Chat, I just wanted to be known about the glaze myself. I called this light cone being broken dead ass almost frame one. Almost frame one. I was like, this got to be the most broken light cone I've ever. There is a video on my channel. If you go down into the archives and dig deep enough, there's a video on my channel of me talking about this damn light cone. I'm pretty sure before any motherfucking body on planet Earth talked about it.
Except this is not really tied with break, but more
I'm not exaggerating at all.
Based on the ultimate
I think I even remember people telling me that I was gassing it. Because they just didn't understand the fucking power of action value advancement. They were like, you're gassing the light cone. It's not that good.
The action value
2 years later, boys,
which leads to more turns for your units. It might not fall off that much further compared to the Signature Lycone one, and sometimes you might even prefer running DDD over the S1 for those 0 cycle setups, right? So for me, I have tested Tribbie using her S1 as well as her DDD against the Flame River at 3 stacks of Trace because I kind of want to see her follow-up damage at the maximum 216% damage buff. For River, he does have this mechanic which is kind of annoying, that he generates these stacks of armor which will die if you were to kill the mobs. But if I were to not test it against River and only test it on wave 1, then the damage percentage doesn't have enough time to ramp up to 200.
Not only that, this light cone is also fucking insane in Pure Fiction. It's insane in Pure Fiction. You never run out of cycles with this light cone in Pure Fiction.
16%, or sometimes we kill
even in fucking Apocalyptic Shadow.
the mobs and it doesn't really give us 5 target, which frankly speaking, this was a very, very annoying test, right? Then on the flip side, if I were to test it against True Swarm or I test it against Nicodor, the energy regeneration buff will affect the timings for our ultimate.
I'm confused why we watched Guide for 2 times. Only see a little different. I'll be honest with you. Him and Brax always give 2 entirely different like values of these characters. Why I like watching the 2. Pokey has already mentioned like very like extreme details and meticulous shit that Brax won't mention. Brax has mentioned a lot of things that the surface level players of HSR need to know and the perspective they need to see that Pokey will never share. It's actually 2 completely different perspectives.
So don't really want to go through that. But in summary, with Dance, we are doing 26,000 single target, so times 5 is going to be 130k out, 97,000 follow-up with the additional damage, as well as 7,422 damage per 12% additional HP, right? And then using the Signature Lycone, we are going to be doing 34,000 single target, so times 5 is going to be 170,000 ultimate compared to 130,000, 142,000 follow-up with the additional damage, as well as 9,950 per the 12% additional damage, right? So in summary, it is roughly 30% more damage using her ultimate, 46% more follow-up attack damage, as well as 34% more additional HP scaling damage, right? So this is also not inclusive of the additional damage given to the team, which is going to be from the 48% crit damage buff. Just Tribbie alone is going to be roughly dealing 30% more personal damage. At the end of the day, after making all these comparisons, yes, you are going to be dealing roughly 30% more damage using the Signature Lycone, but because Dance does give us a value, which is the action value, it can't really be calculated on paper.
Yeah, it's really fucking annoying calculating it. But like, let's say DDD gives your the Herta another fucking action inside of the cycle. It's like you can't quantify that. Or it puts 2 other characters inside of the cycle again. It's so annoying calculating that.
It really just depends if the player can make use of
that damage that you're gonna do can completely over fucking shadow whatever her Signature Lycone does. It can, but in certain situations, it can't.
The speed tuning and see if a player can clear the endgame content one cycle fast.
DDD is better overall team.
At the end of the day, these are the fine things. I'll leave it up to you guys to decide if you guys are going to be pulling for her as well. And if you do not have these, then the coggers with the 3-star Lycone is also by the red HP sphere as well as energy regeneration rope. That is pretty much it. For the subset, it's going to be crit ratio as well as energy regeneration rope. That is pretty much it. For the subset, it's going to be crit ratio over HP percentage. So speed tuning, like I mentioned just now, even when we are using Dance, I still want to keep Tribbie at a low speed, right? So crit damage is going to be more likely because we are going to be running the 4-piece poet, and HP percent will be exclusively better than quantum damage because, like I mentioned, Tribbie does have a whopping 216% damage buff from her trace, so always run HP percentage. Now, for players that do not want to use the poet 4-piece and you want to run the Eagle 4-piece, you can either use this for 140 speed or 134.7 speed.
As usual, this is another like meta slave recommendation. HP rope will work just fine for a casual player, guys. It'll work just fine for a casual player, especially if you're running around the Herta, where Herta gives 80 crit damage to the whole fucking party. You could totally run an HP rope. This is that same like meta slave take here. But like if you have a HP cracked out substat piece and you just can't get a crit damage piece, just slap that shit on. It should be fine. This
I'm
is
not going to bore you guys
like
with math, just
zero
trust me on the
cycle meta
numbers.
slave
140 speed for 200 speed wave 1 plus 1 whack, or 134.7 speed for 200 speed wave 2 if you can cast your ultimate 2 times. For me personally, I do recommend players to go for the 135 4-piece Eagle with 2-piece, whatever you want.
People gloss over that point. Yeah, it's just like whatever teams you're building, you have to take into consideration what the team is receiving. Case in point, Robin gives the team crit damage as well, follow-up wise. Herta gives the team crit damage. You can get crit damage from a lot of external sources to the point where the HP rope is viable.
Call it, because usually the wave 1 doesn't really need Tribbie's third action, and then you can pivot into the Bone Set or Luxaga for more team-wide utility, right? If you do want to find out more about the speed tuning, kindly check out all of my previous speed tuning videos, which I've done like extensively for the past couple of months, right? So that's going to be that.
Why
and
are
then for
y'all
the
spamming
Relic
the
sets,
Herta?
Poet 4-piece is, in my opinion, the best in slot, most general, don't have to worry about it too much, quantum damage and 64 crit value from the 32% crit rate, unbeatable from a DPS standpoint, which Tribbie has shown that she can deal a shit ton of damage, right?
The giveaway, oh my god, guys, that giveaway is so fucking old. There's no giveaway. I should have turned that off.
Competition with this is going to be the 4-piece Eagle, which is going to be usable in a high speed for specific setups like 0 cycles, but even so, Poet 4-piece can still work with Duns and Stuns. It is much easier to manage the potential.
This is another set that's just fucking bonkers, bro.
Ultimate downtime, because if your Tribbie is too fast, it might do a scenario where your ultimate didn't charge up fast enough and you're going to be losing the buffs you are getting from the ultimate, which is going to be a huge down point, right? So for example, if your allies get crowd control, then she can't really cast the ultimate, right?
I never grind that. Fuck that set, bro. I'm not grinding that stupid ass set.
I did a little bit of a testing as well. Between the Poet and Eagle, the Poet 4-piece dealt roughly 120k per ultimate versus 5 targets, while the Eagle 4-piece only did 4 specific is going to be the best in slot, 12%
what are
max
we even
HP
talking about here?
28% crit
Relics?
damage and 5
Okay, Eidolon.
Hongai Stereo ever since E1 Robin across all supports DPS that has been dealt the additional damage by the zone. In my opinion, this is arguably the best E1 in Hongai Stereo ever since E1 Robin across all supports, DPSs, and sustains. So what makes this E1 so broken isn't because of it being a true damage, which we know by now, it is essentially a damage multiplier increase.
Yeah, he's going to talk about the shit we saw in Brax's comment, I imagine. It's the fact that it takes 24 and multiplies it times the amount of people that get hit.
Right? It is more so how this true damage is applied, because Mimi also has true damage, and this is by comparing this to a E1 Robin. Assuming that if your one unit does 200,000 damage
E1
for
until
5
the next
targets,
banner,
which means each individual target is going to be dealing 40k, assuming the same multipliers, E1 Robin will make the attack deal 248k total damage, 49.6k each to all 5 targets. Whereas for Tribbie, it will make the main target receive 48k additional damage to the highest HP on top of the original damage, while the mobs receive none of the additional damage. So for both E1 Robin and E1 Tribbie, it is gonna be a 20.
Okay, hold on. What was he talking about here? Base damage, 200k, 5 targets. That's gonna be 40k each target. With E1 Robin, that's gonna be 248k. Yeah, makes sense. With Tribbie, it's gonna be this fucking line out the way, bro. E1 Tribbie, 248k over 40k plus 48k to the highest HP target. Yeah, that's significant. That's insane, actually.
24% either rest on true damage, which rest pen in a vacuum is also a 24% multiplier buff. It is going to be 200k to 248k exact.
Tribbie is a must-have for Mighty. Yeah. Not even a, yeah, I'm gonna be honest. Back to back in good Hoyo fashion, put the best character next to the best character. If you're gonna pick up Mighty and you're skipping Tribbie, you're gonna be pissed off at yourself. 1,000,000,000%. You're not gonna have a happy Mighty.
Exactly the same. But for Tribbie, the main target will receive 88k, whereas for Robin, the main target will only receive 49.6k.
I'm skipping the fuck out of Mighty, bro. His kid looked lame as shit for me.
Tribbie's ultimate smart
Yo,
targeting.
Diddy the Reaper, thank you for the Prime sub.
Is that this allows us to kill the main target a lot faster compared to buffs like Res Pen, which is applied to all attacks to all targets. This means that all of these additional damage, they wouldn't be wasted on your mobs, which they are most likely still going to be dying anyways, especially if you're going to be doing AoE based attack, right? So this is also only for a single instance of additional damage. So
should you skip Tribbie if you want S1 Castris? No, because Tribbie is Castris' best in slot. You should not skip Tribbie. I'm gonna just be honest with you. This is not a character that anyone should skip, to be honest, unless it requires you spending money. I don't think anybody should be giving HSR money either right now until these fuckers show us that they put effort into their game.
Your DPS can hit a target multiple times very frequently. Then you can see how easily this adds up and quickly.
Yeah, EO said it best. Tribbie is basically don't skip if you want any DPS from 3.0. That is genuinely the best way to put it. That's the best way to put it. Tribbie is the Robin of 3.0, chat. Okay, it's that simple.
Tremendous damage to the main target. Worst come to worst, if it's just gonna be against a single target, it is still gonna be a 24% true damage increase, which, like I mentioned, is a multiplier increase, which will have zero diminishing.
Even if you have Sunday for Castris, so Sunday for Castris can function, right? Sure, but here's the thing: Tribbie gets better with the more HP scaling that is on your team. Castris scales with HP. Tribbie also gives buffs that will affect HP scaling characters, whereas other characters are going to give buffs that aren't as good for those HP scaling characters. Does that make sense? The all-type res pin and the vulnerable multiplicative shit, that affects HP characters beautifully. So she's just hurt, bro. I don't know what to tell you. She's hurt.
And this E1 is universal to all teams, so it affects all damage sources, right? And to put it bluntly, in my opinion, this is the best E1 in HSR. One thing
Sunday is better. Oh yeah, bro. You played with Castris already with Sunday and Tribbie. Oh yeah, Sunday's better. You know that for a fact, huh? Shut the fuck up, buddy. Okay, with all due respect.
to note is that this E1, even though it applies to all sources, it doesn't apply to DOT's trigger, right? Not rather the trigger during the enemy's turn. This true damage would not be applied. It will only apply when your ally attacks the enemy. I'll talk about that in the team comp session, but just keep that in mind. And then at this point, between E1 or Signature Light Cone, me personally, I don't think there's too much of a contest because Signature Light Cone has such a close competition with essentially a 4-star Light Cone. I would always choose E1 over the Signature Light Cone. But
isn't that the same for Tribbie and Castris? You haven't played them either. I knew there was going to be I shit you not. I was waiting on a moron to say that exact thing. Here's the difference between me and that guy. I didn't say that Tribbie is going to be better. I'm explaining to you how Tribbie is necessary for Castris. There's bro. Oh man, dude. I'm supposed to be nice. That's right. I'm supposed to be trying to be nice. I talk to him like a toddler. You don't want to skip Tribbie if you're planning on pulling Castris. You don't want to skip Tribbie if you're planning on pulling Castris. Do you want me to say that for you one more time? You don't want to skip Tribbie if you're planning on pulling Castris. I didn't bring up Sunday. That guy did.
That being said, if you do want to consider getting the Sig, especially if you do not have DDD, it does provide substantial damage numbers, especially for Tribbie herself. The question is just whether or not these additional damage, can they outvalue the action value gained from Dance Dance Dance.
I'll be honest, I've completely lost the plot. Pokey's kind of just been waffling in the back.
Really measure on paper, like I mentioned, right? So if you can get a cycle faster with more action value from Dance 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 by lowering your Tribbie damage,
bring back Mow the Lawn Smack,
then DDD is gonna be better than S1. For me personally, I don't really want to go through the whole mental gymnastics. Do I need this S1? Do I need the DDD? I'll just keep it this, right? I will go for E1 first, followed by the E2.
Why are you supposed to be nice? Fuck the Angel on his shoulder, choose darkness. Listen, man, I'm trying to turn over a new leaf here, guys.
Then I'll think about the S1, followed by E4, followed by E6. And speaking...
I'll be honest, though. I will say this. This is completely opposite from the video. If you keep getting asked dumbass questions over the course of like 5-hour stream, you're eventually going to retort with sarcasm or asshole responses, right? It's like it's chip damage, right? It's like, okay, that was a dumb question. That's fine. That was chip damage, though. It's like it did a little damage to your meter. You know what I mean? It's like chip damage. All right, bet. And then like the stream goes on. We continue going. Another dumb question happens. All right, boom, chip damage. It's fine, whatever. Then 37 more dumb questions get asked over the next 4 or 5 hours. If somebody eventually goes, meter filled up, I'm going to give a dick response, and then some fucking pussy in chat goes, you didn't have to respond that way, man. That's a moron who doesn't understand the realistic point of view of a human. Every human eventually is going to hit a meter and respond back with a response that wasn't necessarily a necessary response, but they have a threshold, just like everyone else has a threshold. You know what I mean? It's a counter at one point, but you always get some virtue signaling moron on the internet who goes, hey man, you know what? That wasn't very professional. That was very immature of you. It's like, oh, so you live a perfect life is what you're saying. What you're saying is you always give the right answer at all different times, at every single day, 24/7 around the clock. You've never once slipped up and lost your temperament. You've never once slipped up and said some mean shit. It's fucking cringe. Like, bro, shut up. All right, the Idol, thank you for $10, man. I appreciate that. What about Castrus, Mighty, and Tribbie? Okay, so I think I'm gonna make a video about that. Idol. Thank you for the $10. The video, in short, TLDR, is gonna be, if you're somebody who's trying to spend your resources wisely in Honkai Star Rail, the best play you should have made was to secure Herta. Because if you secured Herta, then you could secure Tribbie and say fuck Mighty and fuck Castrus. But if you didn't pick up Herta and you want a Castrus, well, now you have to secure Tribbie, Mighty, and Castrus. It's the more expensive and foolish route to go based on resources that you have on your account. The smartest route would have been pick up the Herta. Now I can skip Aglaya. Pick up Tribbie. Now I can skip Mighty and Castrus. You see how much better your resource acquisition is in that scenario versus skip Herta, skip Aglaya, pick up Tribbie, pick up Mighty, pick up Castrus, back to back to back to back. It's like you're fucked, But the Herta situation is spread out beautiful in a way where you go Herta, skip Aglaya, pick Tribbie, skip Castrus, skip Mighty, pick Anaxa, whatever the hell his name is. That's like such a beautiful scenario. It's the best free-to-play scenario, is what I would say. Stupid and greedy. Yeah, the stupid and greedy route, I guess, would be the Castrus, Mighty, Tribbie lineup, right? Going for that is absolutely setting yourself up for failure, bro. Because you're going to lose one of them 50-50s unless you are just Bob. Bob's not going to lose the 50-50. Bob's going to win Tribbie, Castrus, and Mighty, not lose a single one, bro. In fact, he's going to get early pity on one of them, too.
Thinking about the E2, this is pretty interesting.
But never forget, chat, stupid and greedy is a meme. You are not stupid and greedy. The company is greedy for putting Tribbie, Mighty, and Castrus all in the same fucking spots. Never forget that.
So it increases your damage from 12% max HP to 14.4%, right? It increases the damage by 120% of the original, as well as one additional instance. So instead of 5 procs against 5 targets, it will be 6 procs against 5 targets. And who knows in the future if there's even more procs, this can even scale up even higher, right? So it goes from regular 60% 5 targets to a 86.4% against the main target, which is going to be a roughly 26.4% final damage increase for every single one of this additional damage. So the more you can trigger this additional damage from Tribbie, which is going to be your AoE content as well as your AoE teammate, the more impactful this Eidolon is going to become, right? So that's going to be the E2. And then for the E4, in a vacuum, it is...
I just realized y'all let me listen. I wondered why I wasn't tapping in. I was like, what the fuck is Pokey yapping about over here, bro? There's no way he's doing... Bro's talking about Eidolons. What the fuck, man? Get out of here.
Have, namely Fei Xiao, Akron, Herta, Aglia, DOT, as well as Super Break. All of these testings, they were done in E0, S0, and I will not break down every single team in detail, or this will be like a 1.5 hour video, which is like just way too much, and I know y'all don't have the attention span, so I will only be bringing up
bro. Why are you trying to cook me like that? You right, I ain't got the attention span. You right.
Most important points in the following. Out of these 6 teams, the 2 teams that I would say are the least synergistic are going to be Super Break as well as DOT for the following reasons. Even though Super Break and DOT, they can gain the benefits from Res Pen as well as vulnerability, I wouldn't say they are that synergistic because we are always talking about opportunity cost, right? Who is Tribbie going to be replacing in these old teams? For DOT, like I mentioned from the E1, any...
the Idol, thank you for the $5. I got Aglia and Herta. I was getting the other 3 also. I don't recommend that.
Hits from a unit's abilities,
I don't recommend
Kafka or Black Swan's skill and ultimate, they can trigger Tribbie's additional damage, especially for Kafka and Black Swan's ultimate, which are going to be considered as 5 targets. However, for both Kafka and Black Swan, their skills are stuck at 3 targeting, and sometimes Black Swan needs to use a basic attack, which will only be 1 target, which is going to be a lot lesser compared to our other erudition-based units, right? Worst of all, the DOT during the enemy's turn, they will not have any additional damage getting triggered aside from the original Res Pen as well as vulnerability. So as of this current moment, with that established, Robin, in my opinion, is still going to be DOT's best in-stock support at this.
He said in his opinion, and honestly, what he stated, I think it's fair for him to have that opinion. That's not even a bad opinion, but it is a opinion.
Current point of time. And then for your break team, Tribbie's competition is essentially just going to be run
completely
because
fair,
Fuchs Exo Toughness plus Super Break 2-in-1 is going to be offering way too much value. At a E0 S0 perspective, Tribbie is not going to be stronger than Runmate, but at a E1 S0 versus a E1 S0 or even E1 S1 Runmate, at that point on, I could foresee Tribbie perform the same, if not maybe might be better than
Cap. I will say this as much as I need to tell you guys. The weakness break efficiency inside of Ron May's regular kit on top of delay so that you can do more breaks with your team. No fucking shot. Not even close. The break efficiency and the delay and labeling your team to break more, it's just too fucking good for Super Break. It's just too good for Super Break. I'm telling you, this shit is insanely good.
E1 S1 Runmate, assuming that the enemies are on the right element as well as the fact that they do have quantum weakness.
The only person that gives Ron May a run for her money, and actually is better than Ron May, is E1 Fugue. E1 Fugue is fucking insane for a Super Break. No doubt about it.
Even if they don't have quantum weakness, Fugue can also give Tribbie the buff so that she can still slowly shave off the toughness bar while being off element. The main thing is because Tribbie herself, because she attacks so...
Why not both? Well, I mean, oh my God, bro. Brother man. Of course, why not both? I didn't say not both. God damn it, man. I didn't say why not both. I'm just saying there's one person. There's just one person.
So frequently, and there's a lot of personal damage, she can help us shave the toughness bar faster than what...
Bro's answer to the dumbest comments. So look, Fez, hear me out, buddy. I treat my chat as equally as I can treat a chat. I don't believe in this whole like ignore these other guys. I see comments and I read them. If you want me to, you know what I can start doing? I can only start reading the people I know have been here since day one. Doom Saga is one of them. I can easily start doing favoritism in the chat if that's what y'all like. I could just straight up only read the people that I know have always been here and then ignore everyone else. But I'm actually a very fucking fair guy, and I read whoever the fuck says shit over here when I want to.
To like Rame's 50% witness rate efficiency. Not to mention the E1's true damage. It is also applied to Super Rate.
Nove K, I did not see your $20 donation. I am so sorry, man. Thank you for the $20, man. If you left the YouTube chat already, I sincerely apologize. I didn't see that, bro. Thank you. Just pulling up to show some love. Have a good day, chat. Have a good day, gang. That's the kind of message that seems like bro dipped off already. Fuck me.
On top of all of the buffs that Tribbie has to offer, right? For this team con specifically, I will wait for the live server to test out myself, so stay tuned for that, right? So now let's just jump into the 4 other teams that I think Tribbie does have pretty decent value in. And the first of all being, in my opinion, the best in slot as of this current point of time, D Herta, right? Absolute best in slot. I would say if you're a D Herta main, you pull for D Herta, you want to invest in D Herta, Tribbie is, I don't really want to say must pull, extremely recommended to pull because I would say it is as valuable as Robin to Fei Xiao to a certain extent, right? And it might be even more so compared to Robin and Fei Xiao because at this point, like you guys see from private, right? Robin, Fei Xiao can still maybe try to manage a little bit even without Robin with like other units like your Sunday, etc. But I digress. Perfect synergy between D Herta and Tribbie outperforms all Sunday, Robin, as well as Mimi, as well as opening the room for more future erudition units to further develop alongside an AoE sustain, right? Because now that you inserted Tribbie into the D Herta team, now your slot 3, which is your erudition, and slot 4 sustain.
All right, I feel like bro's just kind of like saying the same stuff. Bro's kind of waffling. By the way, I think this is a great fucking video. It's just at this point, it's kind of just got to going over the same shit. To summarize everything up, Tribbie is a must. I think EO still said it best earlier. Tribbie is a must pull for anybody who's trying to pick up 3.0 DPS. Surprise, the latest Harmony unit is fucking broken for the latest characters that they're trying to drop. It's no surprise here. I mean, I don't know what else to tell y'all. Nobody expected that the latest Harmony unit was going to synergize with the latest DPS. Insane. Yeah.